What happens when building owners skip that first step of just connecting different systems?
I think the biggest problem is, well, there's two parts to the connectivity. So my background's actually enterprise IT. I don't have a background in buildings. And when I look at the way people are managing multi-billion dollar portfolios, it looks like 1990. It
Yeah.
reminds me of the finance group before they got the ERP system. Everybody's just got spreadsheets and subsystems and paper, and it's outsourced, and there isn't a single enterprise-wide approach to collecting and using data. So a lot of people, when they think of connectivity, they go immediately to the physical connectivity.
Hmm.
Whereas when I think about connectivity, I think about the business. I think about the data. It should only be stored once, accessed by all, single source of the truth, you know, great efficiencies by collecting it once and using it many times.
Hmm.
But when people do go down the journey of smart buildings, they almost always want to start with one of their iconic buildings, which they know is digital ready. It's got a BACnet BMS, it's got a smart lighting system, and they want to connect that up. What we invariably find is what the customer or the client thinks they've got and what they really have are often two different things. They have a network that's not being configured correctly. They thought they had a BACnet license on the BMS, but actually they don't. And so often what our customers think they might have and how digital ready they are is not quite the truth. And so one of the fail fast things that we've done in our company over the last 6 months is to enhance our IoT appliance to build it up so that it can actually assess the digital readiness of buildings. So this product's called the DX Cubed,
Hmm.
and you buy that as a single one-time purchase. You plug it into your building network, and overnight it will come back with a assessment of how digital ready your building is. So how many systems did it find? How many data points did it find? How many open ports did it find? How many versions of firmware did it find? And it's basically an assessment of whether your building is or is not ready for smart building programs, because if it's not, you might have 6 months worth of work to do to bring that network or some of those systems up to scratch.
Yeah, and I'm sure you found, as others have found, that if you go ahead and try to, like, especially if you're a salesperson, try to sell one of these projects to a building owner that doesn't have a digital ready building, you can easily find that the first thing you do on that project is you need some huge upgrade, right? Is that what you've found is, and then everyone's kind of disappointed.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So it not only is it disappointing, but it puts us in a position of immediate conflict,
Yeah.
because what we sold was a 12-month SaaS agreement and a
Right.
12-month managed services agreement, and that's what the contract says. But the building's not ready. So whose fault is that? Was that our fault because we didn't know that and you should have known that but you didn't? Or, and so what we've realized is we needed to, one, remove the uncertainty, and two, remove that conflict and give people the confidence that all I'm buying in step one of this with the DX Cubed is the assessment.
Hmm.
And if the building's not ready to move on, I haven't committed to anything more than that. And the really fantastic thing about it, the DX Cubed, as opposed to a manual site audit, which is how people are doing that today, hire somebody, come out with their clipboard, write down everything, go back, write up a big report. That report's out of date the very next day because who knows what was plugged or unplugged from the network. The most fantastic thing about the DX Cubed is it stays on the network. It will give you a updated report whenever you want to run that. And when you are ready for the next stage, which might be data ingestion, it might be fault detection, it could be energy management, whatever, that same appliance will do that interconnectivity and start pulling the data off those systems.
Cool. Really cool. So it's just basically turning it on whenever they're ready,
Yeah,
essentially.
you just turn the services on. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. Yeah.
Cool. And what are you finding? I remember writing a newsletter about this, I don't know, last December or January. So what are you finding in the several months that's been part of the program?
Well, firstly, it's totally resonating with the market.
Cool. Okay.
So when I think about how we would have sold a smart building solution or a smart building program 2 years ago, we would have gone and, met with a client. We would have met with their procurement team, with their IT team, with all of the site teams, the head of operations, various people to get the okay to move into this. Does it satisfy our data governance and our compliance and our privacy and our cyber and all of that? But we've actually de-risked the project down now to the point where any building facilities manager could say, I want to see how digital ready these systems are. The services teams have told me that these are all BACnet enabled and all open standards. I want to make sure of that before I sign off on this invoice. So they can actually do that. And then what we're finding is people are buying these by the dozen and assessing all of their buildings and then turning their buildings on much, much faster than they would have done using our more recent sales cycle, which was to try and sell a whole smart building program.
Totally. And
Yeah.
just for people that are beginners, have been trying to bring them along in these conversations too, is if you're a beginner out there, how people typically would sell a piece of hardware like this is it's wrapped up in the solution, either an upfront cost or it's part of the subscription fee.